She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Dani Johnson has led hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world with her expert teaching on business, family, relationships, finances, all while building a more enjoyable, a more fun life so that you can truly live the uncommon life. As a seasoned entrepreneur, Dani Johnson has become a multi-millionaire multiple times over. She's been called on by major media for her expertise in finances, in business, and in relationships. She's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She's been on Fox and Friends, Good Morning America. You may remember Secret Millionaire. Dani was the series premiere episode of Secret Millionaire. So what do you do when you're a multi-millionaire and you have it all, right? Dani's heart is to give back, is not only to invest in you as a person, but to invest in the legacy beyond you, your family, your children, the people that you are going to touch in your life. But even beyond that, Dani's heart is to serve the poor everywhere around the world. She has led teams of people and into seeing the needs of the desperately poor all over the world. She's built 1,000, 2,000 homes for single moms raising their children in the garbage dumps of Nicaragua. So I hope you understand that you're not just hearing from a business coach, you're hearing from a mentor, a leader, a friend, somebody who loves to pour into other people's lives. And for the rest of this evening, she's here to pour into you. And so I hope that you're sitting up straight. I hope you've shut off your cell phones, your other devices. I hope you've got a pen and a pad of paper and you are ready to receive. Because this is not going to be the only storm in your life. There's going to be others. So tonight, we want you to be ready to face all the storms that are coming up. So now, if you're ready, it's my honor to introduce to you my coach, my mentor, and America's Secret Millionaire, Dani Johnson.
Thanks, Chad. That is like a very sweet and precious introduction. Thank you so much. And I always love hearing your voice. Your voice to me is like so soothing. And I appreciate what your family has done inside of this community as well. Hi, my name is Dani Johnson. If this is your very first time being on a video like this with us, we are live right now. And I'll just say that it's been a little while since I've done this. It's been a long while since I've been in the studio. And I just want to give you some, I don't know, what do I call them? Not alerts, but warnings, or I don't know what, I can't even think of the word right now that I'm looking for, but this is not going to be a professional video, just so you know, okay, right now. We're having all kinds of different technical difficulties as we walked right in here into the studio. That stuff just seems to happen. It's like stuff is flying all over the place, right? So I want you to know that if somebody on our team ends up walking in here, you might hear a door open. You might hear some other voices talking in the other room. There might be feedback. This whole feed might get dropped. I mean, the craziest things happen, right? I've done plenty of webinars in my lifetime and I've seen the craziest things happen. So I just want to give you that disclosure up front that this is not going to be a perfect video, and it is what it is. But I'm here tonight taking time away from my husband and our personal life to sit with you and to talk to you from a number of different perspectives. Like for right now, I mean, obviously it's a hurricane season, right? That's where we're at. That's where the world is today. We are in a hurricane season. And initially it was like, man, you know, our family's going through a hurricane season. You know what a hurricane season is, right? Well, you do if you live on that part of the country where hurricanes actually hit your coastline. But I'm just saying in general, and metaphorically speaking, it's a hurricane season for so many different families. And then I started to notice that a lot of families were going through hurricanes in their lives, whether it's hurricanes in the marriage or hurricanes with their health or hurricanes with their kids, whether there's their little kids going through major surgeries or it was their older kids, you know, learning how to become adults and making choices that were going to teach them how to become good adults and good, sensible, responsible citizens. I just noticed that there's a lot of family members as well as friends and associates and clients of ours that are going through like a lot, meaning all over the place. And then all of a sudden we look at the political hurricane that's going on. And now there's a health hurricane that hasn't just hit your town or your country, but the world, like as a whole. Their nations are going through some really super hard times. And I'm not giving you any new information on that. But my point for taking time out to meet with you tonight is to come from a couple of different angles. First of all, I've been through a lot of hurricanes in my life, and maybe you have too. And sometimes when we go through the next one, we're just like, oh, it seems like so much bigger, so much worse. And maybe it is bigger and worse than the last one that you went through. But just to remind you of some things that that you're going to make it, and to give you a little bit of guidelines about what we've done as a family to make it through the hurricanes and the storms of life. And some of those storms last longer than others. And then how do we sustain ourselves and keep going? And so I'm going to give you some like practical, like real practical, all the way down to like washcloths information tonight, as well as some stuff for your mind, some things that maybe you might want to feed your mind with so that you're not going down into a rabbit hole that is just going to destroy you during this time, which I don't think that you're going to be destroyed, but you don't want to even get close to that particular place. I promise you that tonight is going to be practical. It's going to be helpful. I'm going to give it my best shot to kind of just have a heart-to-heart talk with you and talk with you as though I'm talking to my children and or friends or family members about some things that we're doing and to kind of get us through this current like crazy global hurricane storm that we are all going through. And so I promise you I'm going to make some mistakes tonight. I'm going to be talking fast when I get excited. I probably will shed a couple of tears. These are your warnings, okay, and your disclosures, if you will. And I do my best to get through the content that I have written out that I've been actually compiling for a couple weeks now, because I've been wanting to chat with you about this current hurricane season. And this is before all of the virus stuff started, hitting the news and hitting Twitter and all the social media outlets the way that it was. And so I hope that you find this really helpful. If this is your very first time hearing my voice, seeing my face, hi, I'm Dani Johnson, and it's very nice to meet you. I'm a mom. I've got 5 children. I've got my 9th grandchild on the way, due in May. I've been sleeping with the same man for 28 years. Yep. Almost 29 years. And I have a heck of a past. I have a past that's filled with all kinds of crisis. I'm not going to get into a lot of that, but just kind of give you a little bit of a background so that you know kind of who you're having this conversation with. And by the way, we're not going to be paying any attention to comments while we're doing this video. We're just not. I want to go back to the old-fashioned way where it's a one-on-one conversation and you are not, on your phone checking social media and making comments and stuff like that. This is, for right now, it's going to be a one-way conversation that I'm inviting you into this discussion with me. And that's for you to have in your own head and your own heart. Take some notes if you want to, if you're finding there's going to be some helpful information. Our website is DaniJohnson.com, and that's one N and an I. Dani, DANI, Johnson.com. It's been a free website since the very beginning. It's 17 years that's strong we've been out there in the internet world, helping people to succeed on a daily basis. How did I get started? First of all, I grew up in a violently abusive, drug-infested home where I was, myself and my sisters and my mother, unfortunately, were terribly abused. I mean, violently abused, and way more often than any person should ever be abused. This was a common occurrence in the house that I grew up in. I was the oldest of 3 girls, so I thought. When I was 18 years old, when I was 17 and a half and pregnant with my first child, I found out about my biological father, which I was so very blessed to learn about. And learn about where I had come from and why my hair was dark and why my eyes were black and why my body was built completely different than the 2 girls that I grew up in. My mom felt it was important to keep that information from me, that I had a different dad. And same with the man that raised me. He felt like it was important for my sisters not to treat me any different. Well, that didn't necessarily help, but I was very, very blessed. When I was 18, I got to meet my dad, and it turned out that I was one of 7 on my father's side. But the house that I grew up in, being filled with so much trauma, my mom broke her neck when I was 11 years old, diving into a swimming pool, coming to play with me. And that was a horrible traumatic thing. Came up out of the water with her face down, and she was paralyzed from the neck down. And she was on life support, and she had horrible experiences in our medical system way back when. And we're talking a very, very, very long time ago, which I would hope that the medical system is better today. Who knows? Who really knows? But anyway, so being a kid that grew up around a lot of trauma, I mean, and drugs, like I never watched my dad get up and go to a job that I can remember. My mom obviously was home with the 3 girls. So there was a lot of abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, watching my mother being beaten so very badly that her eyes would be bleeding and her teeth were punched out of her mouth. I mean, horrible horrible, horrible things that no child should ever see, thinking that my mother was dead, not once, not twice, but many times. And so I suffered a lot. My sisters and I suffered a lot in our childhood. And in all reality is that somebody can look at that and just simply say, oh, well, too bad, get over it. And other people can choose to still live there. I chose to use my past as a platform to get up, to rise up, and to do something better with my life. I made a choice that I didn't want to go the drug path, even though I went and I experimented with it in my later teens. From the childhood that I had, moving out of the house when I was 16, the greatest year of my life, getting out of the house, got pregnant at 17. By the time I was 18, I had been on my own for a little while, and I'd already made a bunch of really hard decisions that resulted in terrible crises and horrible traumas. To then starting in business at the age of 19, not because I thought I could do it, but because I knew I could fail. I'd been told I was a failure my entire growing up life, and I was stupid, I was fat, I was ugly, and I was never going to be able to do anything right. And so when I had met some very successful people and was invited to a business training, when I heard these people's stories and when I heard some of the things they were talking about, I just kind of did some math in my head, which I was pretty good at math, and thought, okay, man, if it takes me 20 years to learn what they know, if I fail their income by 90%, if I'm the dumbest person in this room, I'm still going to be doing better than I'm doing at my job at JCPenney's right now. And so I started in business at 19, and the first 6 months I was a rabid failure. I couldn't get anything to work, man. Everybody had an excuse. Oh, the economy's bad and we can't afford it. I get paid in 2 weeks. I need to talk to my husband. No, that thing is not really for me. I just couldn't get anybody to want the product that I believe in so much. And nobody wanted it. So I was failing like crazy. I was living off of my credit cards. I couldn't make my rent payment. I'm buying groceries from my credit card. It was a terrible time. And so here now I'm 20 years old and totally failing terribly. And then I meet somebody who directs me to a place where I could invest into myself with the money I did not have. I obviously had to borrow it from places that had it because I didn't have it, and to learn about business. And I started to do that. I started to do that actually through training seminars. And so in the next year, I ended up doing very well for myself. In fact, in the next 6 months, I made $50,000. 21 years old at this point. I made, in fact, my biggest income in a single month was just under $21,000, which was like mind blowing to me. Like, what? A kid who grew up on welfare, violently abused, after my mom broke her neck, then there was a settlement. There was a couple of years where there was money, but for someone like me to be able to make money like that was a total miracle. Like that, I was the last person in the world that was ever going to succeed at anything. So sadly, I made a really stupid choice and met and married a guy that I knew for 7 days. I married somebody that I barely knew, and I went to a foreign country and I got married. And within a few months, I ended up completely embezzled with $2.03 to my name, a $35,000 debt, suicidal, and totally homeless, 3,000 miles away from family and away from anything that was familiar. My so-called friends and business associates, they were long gone. As soon as my business was completely embezzled, and as soon as some gossip started rolling around, everything was gone. And so I don't know if you've ever been homeless before, but there's very few things in life that are as traumatic as being homeless, especially being a female. I could go into great detail about the horrible season of being a homeless woman, including being raped and gang raped while I was homeless, experimenting with drugs, giving myself over to things that I should have never given myself over to, and just literally on a daily basis, terrified. How was I going to make it? What do I actually need? And when you're a homeless woman, you need very little, meaning you realize I need clean water, and you could get that in public places. I needed a safe place to sleep, and that unfortunately was not very easy to find while I was homeless, especially where I was living because I was far away from anybody that I knew. Food, and needing to find some source of income so that I could start buying food versus the things I was doing to be able to get food, which is really not a good thing that I was doing for food. And so the long and the short of it is that on December 25th, after reaching my lowest of low, I had done a line of cocaine the night before, which was Christmas Eve. And I happened to be in a bar setting with a people that I actually had started working with. I became a cocktail waitress and I did a line of cocaine. And I don't remember where I slept that night or who with, for that matter. And the very next day I wake up at a beach party and I go and I offer myself for more cocaine. This is called desperation, right? And we're going to be seeing here shortly people that are very, very desperate. And I want to help to protect you from you becoming that very, very desperate person, and picking a path for yourself. You don't have to make the same kind of mistakes that I made during those horribly traumatic times, those hurricane seasons of my life. And fortunately, we've learned from these hurricane seasons, so we're not repeating all those same patterns again. So I heard a voice tell me to pick up my mat and walk. That was a very defining and very important time in my life. Pick up your mat and walk. I thought the voice was talking about my beach mat. So I literally went over to my beach mat. I rolled it up and I started walking towards my car, which was about a mile away through black lava. And once I got in my car, I started to drive towards the beach that I had been living on. And there was a conversation going on inside of my heart and in my head. And it was a war between literally like good and evil, if you will. One voice telling me to just kill myself, that I will never be able to trust anybody. I'm never going to make it. I'm always going to be a failure. Everything's always going to turn out bad. Because in 21 years, that's what happened. In 21 years, everything did turn out bad. In 21 years, my life did always have some kind of horrible trauma and terrible pain. And my parents at that point, my mom and dad, the man that raised me anyway, had completely disowned me. My biological father and I were still trying to figure out this new life of, his daughter in his life and me having this father in my life. And so I was a messed up kid, and I had all kinds of pain inside of me, and was blaming people and hating people. And so that part of that voice was talking to me, telling me to just kill myself, that it's always going to be bad and nothing's ever going to turn out good for you. And your life is useless anyway, and nobody's ever loved you. Your family doesn't love you. Your friends didn't love you. Your husband took off and is sleeping with another woman. Like, come on, girl, just end it already. In 21 years, you've got nothing but proof that your life is going to suck forever. Then there was another voice that was talking to me, telling me to step up, rise up, and do something great with my life. This other voice that was talking to me, telling me that I knew better than to be hanging out who I was hanging out with, that I knew better to be listening to who I was listening to, that this was not the life that was intended for me, that there was something better out there for me. And yet I was choosing this drug path. I was choosing this abuse of alcohol path. I was choosing this abuse with men path. I was choosing this abuse of my physical body and my mind and my soul and my spirit path. And this other voice was trying to correct me and put me on a better path. And I'm so grateful that I listened to that voice all those years ago. I'm so grateful that I chose to focus on what can I do to change today? What can I do to change my finances today? What can I do to change my mind today? And literally on a daily basis, I began to focus on a couple of things that started to dig me out of being this homeless woman who was suicidal all day, every day, to nearly taking my own life, to starting a business the very next day from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth. Listen to me. With a bad reputation in a town of 5,000 people. I bounced checks all over that town. I owed people money all over that town. Okay, I was known as the newcomer who hurt people. And here I'm going to start a business from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth with what? All I had was the skill that I learned the year before. The skill that had made me $50,000 in 6 months. The skill that taught me how to be able to communicate differently, the skill that taught me how to market from nothing, the skill that taught me how to be able to bring people to a decision that was best for them and to come to a win-win situation, how to build a client base out of nothing, literally out of thin air. And so those skills that I had learned the year before, as well as borrowing from confidence, like reminding myself of that I did have those little short successes. And I did manage to go from total failure of 6 months and not making anything to making $50,000 in the next 6 months. So my mind, I began to train my mind to see the one good thing that I had going for me. And each day I would add just one more good thing that I had going for me. And those were the things that kept me alive. And there wasn't much at all. I didn't have a lot that I could be positive about or that I could be grateful about or thankful about. But I searched and just went, okay, well, there's this one thing that I could be, that I've got going for me. And the one thing was that I was living in Hawaii. Well, big deal, big deal at that time. There was a major war going on. The hotels went from a 99% occupancy down to a 33% occupancy. People were laid off left and right. And here I'm going to start a business. Give me a break. Wasn't the best time to start a business. Wasn't the best time for me personally, with where my reputation was. It certainly, I did not have any idea how to start something in a bad economy, something that literally just hit the market by storm. The stock market just crashed massively in a day, right? The country was in peril. Everyone was scared, right? The grocery stores were being emptied out. Like the same as what we're seeing today with a virus is the same that we saw all those years ago when I was a homeless woman. But fortunately, I used the power of the mind, which you have also. You have a powerful mind. I have a powerful mind. God gave us these powerful minds so we could choose to put our mind and fixate it and set it on something that is good, noble, pure, and praiseworthy, or we can set it on something that is not. We can set it on something that is going to make us depressed or suicidal and hopeless and fearful and be controlled by that fear. And so I am in any way, a stranger to hard times. This was not the only tragedy that happened in my life being homeless. Prior to that, I had 21 years of tragedy. And I had years of tragedy even past being homeless. So what happened after being homeless? Well, in 4 days, I managed to profit $2,000. In 4 days, I found 40 customers, literally out of thin air, with a handwritten flyer at a post office to a voicemail that I did not have the money to buy. Literally out of thin air. And by the way, all of the training on step-by-step, the scripting that I used, all that kind of stuff is at DaniJohnson.com. I've been teaching people how to start from nothing and build something significant. So my first year, I made $250,000. In fact, let's just go like $2,000 the first 4 days. The next 30 days, I made $6,500. And that was in addition to my cocktail waitressing job, which I was making $1,500 a month as a cocktail waitress. The next month, I made over 10 grand. The next month, I made over 14 grand again. Grocery stores had been emptied out. The economy had crashed. People were in peril. Everyone was not going on vacation and people were being laid off. And here's the time when I started a business. Wasn't the right time. Wasn't the perfect time. Turned out to be pretty perfect. I ended up, because of skill sets that I had learned, making $250,000 that first year. And by the end of my second year, I made my first million. This all happened by the time I was 23 years old. As you can see, I am not 25 at all. And so my point is those same exact strategies I used through the years to make millions of dollars, as well as I've also lost millions of dollars. My husband and I have been together, like I said, going on 29 years. I can't believe it, in 2 months. That just blows my mind to beyond. But anyway, we've had multiple different businesses through the years, and we've learned a lot of hard lessons. We've seen the crashes of the market in 2000 and 2008 and 9. We were victims of the crash between 99 and 2000. We had all of our entire life savings, and we were so foolish financially, right? We spent 10 years making money and making babies together. And then at the end of that 10 years, because we did what people told us to do, we spent foolishly. We bought $1 million houses in our 20s, right? We vacationed all over the place. We bought lots of jewelry. I had a $250,000 wardrobe. Stupid, right? I did what the American dream said to do. And that was like, oh, you got to show your wealth. You got to show your money. Well, first of all, that wasn't wealth. Those were nothing but riches, and riches often run. So the first 10 years, seeing the market go up and down, right? And then health issues that were brought in by stress and brought in by my thoughts, meaning, no, I'm not a hypochondriac, but the things that I was dwelling on was making me sick to my stomach and making my heart race and making me feel like, everything's going to go away and I'm going to lose it all, and just living in fear. And so after the 10 years of making money and then waking up one day to the beautiful stock market, like completely crashing, and I was diagnosed with a fatal heart condition, and I had 5 children. In fact, 2 of them were babies, 2 in diapers, and the doctor saying, you can't have any stress. Like, what? Like, I have a lot of kids, and we had this huge house, nearly 6,000 square foot house. We did not need, no way. We didn't need any of that. And here's what happens. When the hurricane comes, all of a sudden things get prioritized, right? Isn't that true? All of a sudden things get prioritized. And there's also the deep feeling of regret. So here's one thing I'm going to tell you. First of all, I'm really proud of you for being here on this live broadcast right now. I'm really proud of you. You somehow got an invitation to it, and here you are, because you really want to not fail in this storm that the world is going through right now. Not just the nation, not just your family, not just your friends, not just the company you're a part of, but the world is shaking all around us. And so this you don't want to fail during this time. You will have failures during this time, I promise you, because whatever it is that you've planted before this time, you're harvesting it right about right now. And so, if you were not lazy during the harvest season, which we just came out of, right? So we are now in a winter season right now in the world. And one of the things you have to understand when going through life is that there's different seasons of life. And right now this is a hard one. This is not going to be easy, and it's not going to get easier anytime soon either. We're going to have to bootstrap it. The best of us is going to have to come out of us, and the worst of us is what's going to want to come out of us. And so we're going to have to kind of grow up a little bit, put our big boy chonies and big girl chonies on, and step up, rise up, and face this thing head on. That's what we're going to have to do. And so I want you to know that I'm really proud of you tonight for being here. And I'm really, really proud of you for being forthright, like looking ahead and going, okay, how should I prepare myself for what's coming? What should I do? What should I not do? What should I be staying away from? What should I be diving straight into? These are good questions that you're having, which is why you are here right now tonight. And if anything, I hope this is going to be an encouragement to you that human beings can, for some reason, we seem to last, right? We seem to thrive even when it seems like we're going to fail. We seem to survive the worst of things. And I know you have it in your life. I have it in mine. And guess what? This is the next season that we have. And it's going to be time for us to just bootstrap it, baby, and do something. And I think we might surprise ourselves. I really do. And I'm super, super excited together of coaching. And these people paid off over $11 million worth of debt in the last 12 months. Literally, our last call was last week. And so to see these guys that like hunkered down, they used these principles, 53 people paying off, I think it's $11.2 million worth of debt. So for our clients who've been with us for a long time, because I've actually been teaching and training in the marketplace for 31 years, but I've been teaching debt for 2 decades, teaching people how to get out of debt, but I've been teaching people how to make obscene amounts of money for the last 31 years of my life. And what's been beautiful about that is to see those who have paid attention, those who've applied the information, those that got the results, those people during this season are going to do very, very well. Those that decided to cherry pick the information, those that decided to not pay off their debt, those that decided to add more mortgages, those that decided to buy new cars and finance those new cars, those that decided to keep eating out all the time instead of budgeting their food and staying within it. Those people are not going to be doing so good here in the next few months, or maybe even the next couple of years. And that's okay. Wherever it is that you find yourself, whether you took heed to the gentle message that we've been giving for me 3 decades, other people longer than that. Maybe your parents taught you that you should be frugal and you decided to go, phooey, man, I'm not going to live like that. Well, you're about to pay the price of turning your nose up to the parents that taught you well financially. And that's okay. All of us have a journey, no matter where it is that you are right now financially, it's going to turn out okay. I promise you it's going to turn out okay. Because even when Hans and I, when we first started out and we were making money those first 10 years and making lots of money, there was some people telling us to buy houses and cars and, show all the success on the outward side of us. But then there was this other little message, like this book that we got a hold of a long time ago. And it was called The Millionaire Next Door. And it did case studies about people who lived really frugal and they actually had a real net worth versus the ones that made lots of money, but spent it and had lots of debt and they had no net worth. So one was actually wealthy and the other was actually broke. And so we started to learn about these kind of things and we didn't listen. We started to hear, wait a second, the path to real wealth is actually being frugal. We're like, nah, no way. Right away after we read that book, we went and bought $1 million house, which was so stupid, right? We had a $1,200 a month food bill and we had just little kids in the house. That was a ridiculous amount that we were spending on food, which is little babies in the house. And so we didn't take heed to the gentle messenger in the beginning. But I'll tell you what, when that stock market crashed and everything went crazy, and then at the same exact time that the stock market crashed, I was diagnosed with a fatal heart condition, which actually runs in my family. It got our attention. We finally had to go, okay, hold on, time out. We got to make some changes. And here's what's beautiful is those changes have been lasting. Yeah, it's exactly 20 years ago. Those changes have been lasting, and something beautiful came out of that hard, horrible financial trauma that we went through. Something amazing and beautiful got birthed out of it. In fact, you might want to write this down, and it's called War on Debt. And it's a training that we've been teaching all these years and have helped hundreds of thousands of people pay off debts. In fact, that message has actually gone to millions and millions of people via television and radio. In fact, one particular television broadcast, it went 200 nations. And then I happened to travel around the world and meet the people who actually paid off debt from this one 30-minute episode that was on television. Was crazy. People that became completely debt-free, and they just happened to be watching that particular show that night and actually applied it. And then a year later, I happened to be in their country and in their town. And here they're like, it worked. I did it. I paid off all my debt. Like, what? You got to be kidding me. So anyway, so if I can go, friend, from the childhood that I had to the business fairs that I had, to then the places that Chad told you where I've been, right? The Oprah Winfrey Show, the premiere episode of Secret Millionaire. I've been on hundreds of television interviews. We had our own television and radio show for 10 years. We actually just took ourselves off the air December 31st. Give me a break. Like, I'm the kid that dropped out of high school. Okay. I'm the teen pregnancy. I grew up on welfare. Do you understand? I'm a part of every bad statistic. So if we can be resilient and succeed, so can you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And not only that, if you don't believe me, go to the website, DaniJohnson.com. Look at the testimonials that are on our site. They are crazy. I literally just talked to one of our clients last week, the Jones family, who paid off, I'm telling you, over $1 million worth of debt in a year. Over $1 million, $1.4 million worth of debt in a year. And they said to us, if we had not learned what we learned, and we had not made the adjustments that should have been made when we started coming a year ago, we would be we'd be divorced, dead, and bankrupt. And to be honest with you, if you knew their background, she's telling the truth. They would be divorced, dead, and bankrupt with 5 children. That'd be a tragic thing. So listen. So whether you have been listening and you have been wise financially, you have a little bit more of a cushion. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm going to show you how to get that cushion. And if you start on this journey with us over at DaniJohnson.com, I promise you we have a life map of success waiting for you, so you can start doing what it takes to be able to get yourself to where you want to go. Use this current trauma that our world is going in and is in right now. The current trauma that maybe your family is walking through. Use it for your benefit, because here's what I do know. And I'm going to give you my list of how I've walked through trauma, how we're walking through this current storm, this hurricane right now, and a mindset that I have to position myself for, and that I'm encouraging everybody around me to be focused on these particular things, so that we can not only weather the storm, but we can come out ahead in this storm. We can come out better in this storm, so that we can actually mature, being complete, lacking nothing. And that when the next storm comes, because there will be another storm, friend, there is going to be another storm. My gosh, if you and I were to sit down together and just like make a list of all the storms that we've been through, you actually probably be very encouraged because you've survived them. If you were to write down, man, what did I learn out of each one of those storms? You know it's something beautiful. In fact, I'm thinking of one right now, another horrible storm, right? I had been embezzled right after I had made my first million. And I tried to kill myself. My husband's a martial artist. He totally saved my life. I was 25 years old and I just saw no way of anything getting better. Everything was so bad. Had the U.S. Marshal coming in and collecting the cashier's checks for my customers, and me still having to give them their product from my warehouse, not being able to meet payroll, $50,000 a month of an overhead, and I didn't have a way to be able to meet it. I mean, these were terrible. I'm young. I have 2 babies. Like, it was a terrible, terrible time. And the reality is that what came out of that was learning the secrets of time, and learning how to prioritize my life, and learning how to not let business rule my life, and to not let money rule my life, and to not make decisions out of fear, but to make them out of wisdom. And so each trauma in my life personally gave birth to a system that I use then to live my life in more peace and in more harmony, including the storms of marriage. Lord have mercy. The storms of marriage, which have probably been some of the biggest storms of my life, has been in the marriage department of my life, and how we've weathered those storms and how we push through those storms to get to the other side. So let me give you some things of how we have done that for all of these years. I've already been giving you a whole bunch in case you didn't realize. And I know that maybe you might have taken a few notes, but I'm proud of you for being here. All right. So first of all, whether you see this current, again, let's look at this. For those of you that live on the certain coastline where hurricanes do happen versus the other coast where it's like floods, right? Listen, when it's hurricane season, you're not putting some suntan lotion and you got your glasses on and you're just like soaking up the sun. That's not what you do during hurricane seasons. You have to understand that during a season like this, which would be a winter season, if there's 4 seasons, right? This is definitely a winter season. You got to learn how to recognize what those seasons are. Recognize it and be prepared for it. Because in a hurricane, you don't expect everyone to act right. You don't even expect yourself to act right. And if you don't position yourself with some really important, if you will, banners leading you into every single day, glasses that you're choosing to put on, the things you're choosing to focus on, you're going to end up doing what the natural human thing is, and that is freaking out or checking out, right? And we're watching that right now. People are freaking out or they're checking out, right? So, and then here's the other part. Some people are and again, my mind's gone through the whole gamut of all the stuff, right? Okay, like when everything first started to happen, especially after the impeachment hearings, it's like, wow, okay, wow, this is quite a political war that's happening. And then comes all the virus stuff. It's like, there could not be a better chess game going on right now in politics. Politically, this is like greatest chess move after the next. It's almost like grab your popcorn. Let's go ahead and watch and see how this one turns out. Okay, now listen, don't hate me because I said that, but in all reality, you've been on the planet as long as I have. You've watched a lot of stupid stuff politically happen, and it just goes like this, right? So you might be of the opinion that, oh my gosh, this is like a political war, and it very well possibly could be. Like, what could be a better way to tank a president than to tank the economy when that's the strongest part of his campaign? And now it's like, bam, right? And then, of course, what could be better for the other side with health, right? Like, what could be better? It's literally like, it's almost like a movie that we're watching. Sadly, it's like a movie right in front of our eyes. It's almost like the Twilight Zone that's taking place. If you even know what that is, you probably have to be my age to even know what the Twilight Zone was. Forget I said that. But anyway, so whether you believe that's it's just political drama, and or you believe that this virus is a hoax, and or you are freaking the heck out and you have lost your mind and you have an entire warehouse filled of toilet paper right now, because there are people that's what they have done, and or like tons of canned foods, and you've got enough to live 50 more years based on how many times you've gone to the grocery store. Whatever part it is wherever it is that you're at, I just want to tell you that everything that we're talking about tonight still will apply to you. And to be honest with you, none of that stuff really, really matters. At the end of the day, whatever is going on, whether it is a hoax or not, whether it is a real thing or not, whether it's a political war or not, or it's biological warfare or not, all of that is important. However, it doesn't change what you need to do right now. All of that, all of the opinions concerning all of that is largely, in my opinion, insignificant, because all of it, no matter what the truth is of it, is going to have an impact. And I promise you, there's going to be a long-lasting impact on this. I've been talking about this for about a decade and a half, where I've been warning people about a correction coming to the United States of America. I've been talking about it. In fact, it's in some of our books. In fact, it's in Spirit Driven Success. It's in many of our YouTube videos. It's in a lot of shows that I did for the last 10 years about a correction coming. Why? Because we as a nation have been, I would say our maturity level has been about 12 years old. We've been incredibly irresponsible financially. We've been incredibly irresponsible in our relationships, and we've been incredibly irresponsible in business, largely as a people. If you were to look at us and analyze us as a people, we have been incredibly irresponsible and incredibly immature. We literally have been using debt to buy conveniences. We've been using debt foolishly. We've been living way above our means. We've been buying more than we will ever need. I mean, we have become a culture that throws away food every day. We pack our houses with food. And then we go out to eat. We open our fridge, our pantry, and our freezer, and we say there's nothing to eat. And it's packed with food, right? So we become very spoiled rotten. I noticed this about myself. 20 years ago, when all of a sudden our income was going to be knocked down by $1 million a year due to a forced early retirement for me, and that our other business was going to tank when I wasn't going to be involved in it. And so we knew that, it's coming, and it became very, very apparent that $1,200 a month on food was not going to happen anymore, because we weren't going to have $1,200 a month to spend on food anymore. And so right away, man, I started slicing and dicing my bank statement and going through and looking at every single one of the luxuries that were on there and looking at what was non-essential, what was not necessary. One of them was that I used to shop at Costco. I spent $500 a month at Costco. Guess what happens when I said we're not going to Costco anymore? We save $500 a month right there. That took our food bill from $1,200 down to $700, right? And then I took it down from there, including supplies and including diapers. I got it down to about $600 a month. It was about $100 to $125 a week is roughly about what I managed to be able to get it. And that was, again, with 6 people in the house. And then there was always these extras that we had over for dinner quite often throughout the week. And so if I managed to do that, then right, from $1,200, in fact, cut that bill right smack dab in half. And one of them was a habit of going to Costco, thinking I was doing good and having saving, meaning like, spinach that was like pre-washed for me. I started to, we started to eat out less, and we started to eat in more. And we did not waste anything from that point on. Like, we used every last bite of potato. Do you understand? And I learned how to stretch one whole chicken for 3 to 4 meals versus, making a whole chicken and there's still meat on it, and I toss the thing in the trash. And so we as a people have become incredibly spoiled rotten. I know you know that. And there's people right now that are griping because, oh gosh, I can't go to my favorite restaurant. We literally have gone in this country in the last 20 years, people who spent 25 cents on a cup of coffee to $5 twice a day for a cup of, I don't think you should call that coffee, because I don't think it is coffee. It's dessert. It's liquid dessert in a big giant cup. So we've adapted ourselves to some habits that didn't exist 20 years ago. And people like myself have been sounding the alarm for 20 years. And some people have listened and some people haven't. Now people are going to have to. Like, you're going to have to listen. There's going to have to be things that you clearly are going to have to change in order to weather this hurricane season. Because like I said, in a hurricane, you can't act like it's beautiful, sunny, wonderful spring days, because it ain't. It's not. Things are dropping and flopping all over the place, friends. Listen, when you've got the NBA who cancels the rest of the season, that should get your attention. Those guys had to sit down around the table and go through multiple scenarios, and they're losing tens of millions of dollars by doing this. And the first thing when I heard about that, I went, gosh, all the small businesses that are connected to the NBA. Let's just look at the games in the stadium. All the little businesses of the popcorn and the hot dogs, right? The little businesses, the guys the janitors who actually clean that place out when it's all done. Could you imagine what that mess looks like? So reality is that right away when I thought, oh my gosh, okay, that first of all, it took guts. Massive guts for them to cut those losses. And they obviously saw the writing on the wall before many other organizations did. And for them to understand, my gosh, the horrible impact that this is going to have on so many vendors, so many small business owners, so many families. But they thought it was really, really important to do so. And they would not have, come on, guys, these are business people. And these business people are not going to, they're going to do their very best to make the least amount of financial impact on themselves. And so when you see things like South by Southwest canceling, a big giant conference, huge conferences that are being shut down, and they're weighing the cost. This is a very serious issue. It's a very, very serious issue. And not only that, but I promise you what I've been saying for the last decade and a half, 2 decades to my friends and my family members, but for the last 17 years, what I've been bringing out to the marketplace and messaging and trying to get people to get on the train, towards financial sustainability versus being on the train with what I call 98% of the population who end up dead or dead broke at the age of 65, dependent on their family, friends, and federal income for their main source of income. Do not become a dependent on a government because it doesn't end well. 2% of the population, those that rose from 98 to 2% in the last 2 decades, due to simple principles that this former broke homeless cocktail waitress had taught them, and that we, my husband and I, had both learned and both have lived and both trained our kids to live. And if they choose to continue on that path that they were trained to live, great. God bless them. If they don't, they get to learn on their own, the same exact lessons that we had to learn. And that's that's fortunately how we all get to learn. Either we learn by hearing the message or we hear by being spanked by the message later. Okay, so first of all, when you go through trauma and tragedy, you have to wrap your head around the fact of what season are you actually in. Okay, you just got to go, okay, something just changed. The wind just changed. So you can't keep going in the same direction, the same exact way you were doing it. When it doesn't seem to be working. There's some small pivots and or adjustments that have to be made. And there are sometimes big pills that need to be swallowed. The second thing is, and what that means is that you have to prioritize. You have to learn to prioritize what really is important. Well, so many people decided that toilet paper was really important. Some writer somewhere, decided to float the story that we get all our toilet paper from China, which is like, really? Not all of it, but too much of it, that we get it from China. So, this started this crazy pandemic of people, freaking out about toilet paper of all things. Can I give you a little tip on the toilet paper thing? First of all, I do know that people are emptying out the grocery stores, buying all the toilet paper, and then selling on the street for 10 times what they paid for it. They create a little business for themselves. It's called supply and demand, right? Okay, great. I don't necessarily agree with that, but hey, people do what they're going to do during a time of crisis. But there's a little sprayer you can get on Amazon.com or go to Lowe's or go to your local hardware store, and it's a little bidet sprayer. Yes. And it's like $15, and it taps in directly into your main pipeline at where your toilet is, right? So the main water line that comes in. I installed mine in my last house. Okay, so if I can install it, and I'm pretty good with Makita though, but you don't need a Makita for this. But I've done lots of repairs on a house before. But anyway, so I literally installed this thing myself. And so it taps right into the main water line, has a little hook that goes on the main, your toilet tank, and it sits right there. And so you don't need toilet paper if you're using a bidet, okay? And so we're coming into warmer season, so the water's going to naturally be, the groundwater's naturally going to be warmer anyway, so you'll be okay. Can you deal with cold water? Yeah, you can. So versus dealing with like crazy high prices on toilet paper, right? And by the way, I've been talking about toilet paper for 2 decades also, and talking about the difference between 98% of the population and 2%. 2% are frugal, and this is why they have money, and this is why they're able to sustain themselves during hard seasons, and 98%ers refuse to get frugal. They want to buy that expensive Charmin puffy toilet paper. My answer is, how special is your butt? Like, really? And so people chose not to change the toilet paper they were buying all those years. But the millionaires bought the cheapest toilet paper, and now there's even cheaper toilet paper. But my point is that that's one little thing that you can fix. Have a towel by the toilet, use the water, have a little soap pump right there. You're golden. $15, not so bad. And I've even heard some family members saying, forget it, I'm just going to jump in the shower. Well, sometimes it's not convenient to jump in the shower, but a little bidet sprayer, can work in your home. I don't know that people would necessarily do that in the office, but it's something, $15, right? That's like, I don't know, 18 rolls of toilet paper, one little sprayer. So you could stop freaking out about the toilet paper problem. Anyway, so prioritizing, right? So is toilet paper a priority? It's not as much of a priority as your family is, okay? And so it's really time to realize, like, hold on a second, I need to stop freaking out if you are freaking out. And if you are like, people are just freaking out, there ain't nothing going on, you might want to start paying a little bit more attention. I'm talking about be somewhere in the middle of the road here. And you might want to think about, if you're getting yourself kind of worked up about this, I would strongly recommend that you gain control of your thoughts, because your thoughts control your emotions. Your emotions control your stress. That's where stress comes from. It's from your feelings and your emotions. And so whatever it is you're thinking about, and this is what I love about the best success book ever written, whatever you're thinking about is producing these feelings and these emotions, and they can make you sick, literally. They could make you nauseous. They could make your chest seize up. It can make you feel like you're going to throw up. It could make you feel dizzy. Literally, just emotions alone can actually do all that. Do you know that emotions alone can give you a heart attack? This is the truth. Emotions alone, I'm going to take a drink of water. Emotions alone can give you a heart attack. Trust me, I know. I've had a heart attack. I had one when I was 24. And what was it? Man, I had been embezzled. I worked myself up so much. I had created so much anxiety, and I thought so much about my future, like the next week and the week after that. And oh my gosh, what if this happens? And what if like my bank accounts are totally, drained? And they were. And gosh, the IRS, how am I going to take care of them? And I couldn't. Do you understand? So I kept working myself up. And working yourself up is not going to help you in this situation, and it's not going to help your family in this situation. And so you got to take personal responsibility for where your thoughts are actually heading. And you have to think on the things that are going to help bring wisdom and help you to make wise choices versus freaking out. My daughter the other day, I happened to be on the phone with her. She was heading to Walmart, and all the meat was gone in Walmart. And, people were freaking out all over the store. It's like, so it's kind of important to, if you're on the side of like, this is just a bunch of BS, it's kind of important to kind of look at what people's reactions are, because their reactions are going to create other reactions, and you want to be wise. And I said this earlier, don't be led by fear. You have to be led by wisdom. So what would wisdom say in this situation with your finances? What would wisdom be saying concerning food or stockpiling or whatever? And what does fear say? Fear has a voice, and fear creates emotions. Fear is an emotion, and it will create havoc on your body. It will literally make you feel like you have the virus. It absolutely will make you feel like that. And the more that you dwell on it, and the more that you're focusing on, oh my gosh, what are the symptoms? The more you do that, the more you're going to create the symptoms. You're going to manifest those symptoms yourself. And you've heard this before. Whatever you fear most, you are going to encounter. You're going to manifest that over you. And it's the same with this. What I'm talking about, prioritizing. Prioritize your thoughts around wisdom instead of fear. What would wisdom say about what should I be focusing on right now? Well, first of all, how's your spouse doing with all this? And what are your spouse's needs concerning this? Because if you're married, that's the highest human priority on the planet right now. Next after that would be your children. Okay, so in our case, my husband, he's like, as I was leaving the house to come here to the office to talk to you, hey, make sure you wash your hands, make sure you don't touch anything. Okay, that's what he needs to be communicating. Do we have more Purell than we've ever had? Yeah, like a lot. Not a lot, but it's in different places around the house. My husband didn't realize that I already had antibacterial soap in our soap dispensers already anyway. But those things are important. And so whatever it is that you're hearing from different places of precautions to take and to take care of yourself, that is a priority. But it doesn't have to rule your life. And it doesn't have to be done out of fear. It should be done out of wisdom. You see, the best success book ever written says this. It says that a wise, prudent man sees trouble ahead and takes precautions for it. But the fool sees the same trouble ahead and does nothing and pays the price for it. You don't want to be a fool. And a fool can come in many different forms. And one is fearful fools. Because you can be the fool that says, hocus pocus, no big deal. Well, that's foolish because there's obviously something going on, Joe. However, completely freaking out and your life being ruled by it and you trying to control those that are around you versus giving wise nudges here and there is a big difference. And I want you to learn how to see and discern the difference between fear versus wisdom. Because right now, I would say a huge amount of people around the globe, out of fear, are making financial decisions. Out of fear, they're going to work every day worried about losing their job. And because they're afraid of losing their job, they're making more mistakes than normal. Because they're afraid of losing their job, they're not walking in confidence, which the job needs confidence right now. It doesn't need everyone's fear. It needs confidence. It needs faith, and it needs excellence, and it needs diligence. And fear does not produce excellence or diligence? Same with marriage right now. Because again, the number one priority, the number one human priority that you have, according to the best success book ever written, is your spouse. So are you and your spouse sitting down to talk about how you're feeling about all of this craziness that is going on? Or are you fighting with each other? Are you choosing to make things worse, or are you choosing to make things better? And here's the expectation. During a hurricane season, nobody acts right. Do you hear me? And things are not going to be perfect. Your spouse is not going to be perfect right now. You're not going to be perfect right now. Your kids are not going to be perfect right now. Your coworkers are not going to be perfect right now. Our president is not going to be perfect right now. Our Congress is not going to be perfect. The world is not going to be perfect right now. People are going to be making a lot of mistakes. And if you can be aware of that fact, then you can position yourself from an offensive mindset, something that my husband teaches at our advanced conference. You can have the offensive mindset of going, okay, I'm going to walk into this situation fully aware, and here is my plan of action. Here is my plan to win. And I want you to play to win during this hurricane season, because you can play to win, even though it seems like it's war out there. Come on, look at our Navy SEALs. Look at our military. They don't walk into battle expecting not to get hurt. They know that it's a crisis. They know that it's trauma. They know that people are going to die, and they know they have the opportunity to die. And yet they play to win. They fight to win in that setting. And we can learn from that kind of strategy in this current season right now. So what strategy do you have for your marriage to be sustained, to be closer together than maybe you have been in the past? In fact, here's something I want you to write down and to think about. And these are things that Hans and I have done. What is your knee-jerk reaction in trauma or transition? Because the world just transitioned. So just like when 9/11 happened 19 years ago, our world changed from 9/11. This global biological crisis is going to change our world. What our world was in 2019 and 2018 and 16 and 17, guess what? We will never see it the same way again. It is a completely different world. We've just come into a new era, and the rules have changed. Things are changing right now. And there are things that many of us have been talking about for a really long time and trying to prepare people for that change. Now, guess what? We all have to make the change if we're going to make it through this. And what does making it look like? That's different for everybody. Some people are going to choose to retire right now. Why? It's a good time to do that. Other people are going to put their head down and keep forging ahead. Other people are going to check the heck out. And some are actually going to have their head up in the clouds thinking that everything's going to return right back to normal. And they're going to find very quickly that it's never going to return back to whatever the normal is, just like it's not been normal since 2001. So prioritize. So one of the conversations that we had was, okay, what is my natural knee-jerk reaction? Rather than saying, hey, I noticed that you do this during traumatic or crisis times. No. Come into the conversation with, wait a second, what is mine? And maybe you don't have to have this conversation with your spouse. You need to have this conversation with yourself of how do you respond in a time of crisis? What is your natural reaction? And how can instead you reacting, you can choose to respond. First of all, when you become aware of how you react, and then I want you to think about what's the impact of my reactions. Does it make it better or does it make it worse? I'm happy to say that I used to be the overreactor about everything. Oh my gosh. I was a level 100x overreactor to everything, even little things. Just, you know what I mean? I had just a super short fuse. And that's how I used to deal with things until I came across this passage, and it really helped me. And it's in the best success book ever written. It says, don't be surprised when painful trials come on you as though something strange was happening to you. I was like, oh my gosh. I began to chuckle because every single time I would go through a painful thing, I would literally react like something strange was happening versus that, oh wait, this is normal. We go through seasons. There's always a hurricane season, meaning it's not every year, but there's a season of these crises, right? So look back. Our last crisis was 7 years ago. And then the one before that was about 7 years before that. I actually started to track these going, oh, these seem to happen kind of every 7 years. This is interesting how these happen kind of every 7 years. So when it does happen, I can start to recognize and go, okay, don't freak out, because this is normal. This is called life, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to make it. And there's going to be a great lesson that's going to come out of it. And what's going to come out of it, as long as I don't freak out and bury myself in depression, I'm going to have the opportunity to what? Step up, rise up, and do something great with this set of circumstances. And you're going to have the opportunity to do the same thing with yours. So prioritize. Your spouse comes first. Realize what is your natural reaction to high stress situations and crisis. How do you tend to respond? Is it a healthy response? When you become aware of what that response is, it helps you to make new decisions moving forward and to kind of stay out of what your weakness is. So, for example, mine is that I tend to want to find the structure. I want to find like, okay, hold on a second. This thing's got to be put back together, right? Like I need some kind of structure. I need some solid footing. I personally don't like flying blind. I think most humans don't like flying blind. They like to kind of know what to expect. They want a guarantee. And so since I know that about myself, and that's a weakness, it's not a strength, I can go, okay, well, right now, guess what? We're just going to have to go with the flow. We're going to have to be more flexible than I normally like to be. The normal routine isn't going to be normal right now. Just need to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more gracious. And that's what I'm telling myself. Because again, I want things to be done a certain way, and I like things to be solid and immovable. But the reality is everything is moving everywhere. Okay. Here's another thing. Humans tend to want to control other humans' responses. We tend to want other people to act right in a bad situation, even though we're not acting right. Okay, hold on a second. If you can be aware about how you're acting, then you can extend a little bit of grace about everybody else and how they are reacting. So it helps to be aware. Okay, so prioritize your spouse being first and making sure that you do whatever you can to help protect that relationship. I want to give you 4 pillars that Hans and I are using as we're walking through this global crisis that is happening right now. And as we're making decisions moving forward. Okay. And this is really something important. It's actually something that I learned from my girlfriend, who her family went through a severe trauma where their young daughter contracted a cancer, a very rare one that they had no cure for. And thankfully, these her 4 pillars that they had for their family that they needed at that time helped them to walk through a traumatic, horrible crisis. And I believe that you should come up with 4 pillars. We started with our family values, which is love, honor, and resilience. And so, but we gave, I'm going to read you definitions. We gave current definitions to walk us through this current season that we're walking through. And then we also kind of just had a conversation to say, we've kind of not been doing very good with our family values lately. Like it's time to step it up a little bit and kind of have that more in our focus, because when things are going really good, you don't have to remind yourself to honor people. When things are going really good and things are easy, you don't have to remind yourself to love the person you're living with because they're acting great all the time. So you don't have to remind yourself to love them or to forgive them, right? No, you don't have to, because everyone's acting right. And then you certainly don't need, in our family values, resilience is one of them. You don't need that reminder because everything's going nice and cool and calm and everything's going really good and really smooth. Well, that's not happening right now, right? So whether it's the family little crisis or it's the global crisis, whether it's a trauma that happened, that somebody contracted cancer in the family or somebody needed surgery or some crazy lawsuit that came out of nowhere. Hey, listen, whatever the crisis is, or the business just like completely fell under and you don't know how you're going to make payroll. Been there several times in my life. It's part of life. It's part of the seasons, and crises do come and traumas do come. And what you need to be is prepared for it. And that's what we're doing right here, right now, is helping you to be prepared to weather this storm. And we've weathered many of them. So honor. So this is what we chose, the definition for honor for us right now. Please excuse me because I'm sweating like a pig. Okay, so honor. No blame. No records of wrong and no criticism. No, I would have done it this way or I would not have done it like that, right? So no correcting each other, not during this season. This season right now, because I want you to picture, it's a hurricane. What do? You board up your windows, man. You make sure you have a supply of water and lights and food and maybe some games for the kids so that you can occupy them, because you might be like stuck somewhere for a little while, and be prepared with a plan, a bag ready to pack to leave, just in case, like, the sirens are going off or whatever, however it's to go, that we're going to have to change our circumstances. We have to transition into something different. We're not going to be able to play our video games when the power goes out, right? So we're going to prepare ourselves in advance. And this is, by the way, conversations you have with your kids too, of like, guys, right now we're in a different season and this is a transition. And so things are not going to be as normal as they've been. In fact, they may never go back to the way they've been. But for right now, for this short season, we're going to have to make some adjustments. And those adjustments might be, well, it might be that we all need to save on some electricity. It might be that we're not going to be able to have all the junk food that we had. I was blown away when I went to the grocery store last Friday, buying my normal weekly thing of groceries, and the place was packed and people were buying soda and sweet tea and junk food, like packing up junk food. I was like, wow. So in a crisis, okay, sure, those are necessary. Not. But anyway, so we made the decision that because the tendency when everything is going like this is to come at each other. And so this pillar is to help us succeed and to say, hold on a second, I'm making the commitment to honor. And honor means right now, no blaming, no criticizing, no records of wrong. No, I would have done this, I would have done it that way. No correcting each other, because nobody needs that right now. Nobody needs to be corrected right now. Your husband or your wife needs love and needs honor. And so rather than those things, we have written down to encourage, to edify purposely each other on a daily basis, to believe the best in each other. Why? Because the worst is what's being shown. Why? We're out of character right now, right? Everybody's out of character right now. And so this pillar for us is not just for our marriage. It's not just for our kids and our grandkids, but it is all, meaning that how we choose to respond to how everybody is responding to the current crisis, but it's also to coworkers. It's also to the people at the grocery store who might be like freaking out and being kind of, rude or snappy or whatever. I'm going to make the choice to see the best in those that are around me. Why? This makes me feel better about myself. And this makes me feel better about the current set of circumstances around. This is actually uplifting and encouraging to those that are around me, as well as to myself. I will feel better if I am seeing the best in people versus seeing the worst in people. Let me give you an example. I couldn't believe it. I was watching one of the broadcasts from the White House, and one of the reporters, I was blown away. One of the reporters was trying to drill the president about, and please don't hear this as a political message. I'm talking about the priorities of our media. What time exactly on Friday did you take your virus test? Because we got an email from, the medical staff saying it was this time, but you're saying it was this time, like trying to trap him. People are dying and you freaking care about what time a test was taken? So I had to collect myself and just go, okay, I have to choose to see the best in people. Otherwise I get myself all worked up and I want to slaughter that guy. Just want to go, you idiot. How in the world can you be asking a question like that? People are dying all over the world, and you care about what time to try to trap to see who knew exactly what time a test was taken to see if somebody's lying? Let's go ahead and look at you, Mr. Reporter, about what you're lying about, and if you actually are going to write stories about that. So again, if I let my mind and I choose not to honor, and I choose to blame, and I choose to find records of wrong, and I choose to instead I choose to find the worst in people. Can you see how worked up you and I can get? I mean, maybe you don't get worked up. I do. I'm a passionate Latina. I'm a passionate female. And if I let my mind go to finding the worst in people and trying to correct everybody that is around me, I'm sorry, I'm just going to work myself up. And so if you want to use that pillar, you can. This is a pillar we're using. And I believe in it, and I've used it before, and it works well. So choose to encourage your kids, choose to encourage your spouse, choose to encourage your coworkers, choose to see the best in each other, choose to not be keeping records of wrong, Choose not to blame, because that is what the immature parts of us wants to do. And that's not going to help anybody. Pillar number 2 is to choose love. To choose love, right? Come on. The best success book ever written says to love your enemies. And right now, there are probably a whole lot of them all over the place, right? In fact, listen, politically, they have to find someone to blame for this historic event that's taken place. Someone is going to be to blame. Don't jump on that bandwagon. Don't even. That is not your fight, and it's going to stir you up. This is what you have to choose. Choose to love your spouse. Choose to love your kids when everybody's acting like fools. Okay? Choose to love the grocery clerk who has had a bunch of crazy people around them, and they're probably afraid of getting sick themselves, and they're not giving you the best customer service. You're going to choose love. You have to choose love. You have to choose to give what it is that you're going to want to receive. And right now, you and I both need more mercy. Right now, we need more grace handed out to us. Right now, we need people that are slow to anger around us. And the only way we can get that from anybody is if we're willing to give that. So in all reality, we got to choose kindness. Choose kindness, which to me is a complete reset. I'm going to choose and practice right now in this season to choose to forgive quickly, choosing love, which is choosing forgiveness, which is choosing a reset. That if one of you that you work with, that you live with, or that you're doing business with has a little 2-year-old temper tantrum in a moment, you can choose a reset right in that moment. You can choose to reset with forgiveness and giving kindness, the very thing that you would want to receive. That's what you got to choose. So that'll be your word leading you into each day. Each day, I'm going to choose honor, which means I'm not going to blame. I'm not keeping records of wrong. I'm going to choose to encourage and edify and see the best in those that are around me. And when people screw up, I'm going to choose love. What do I mean? Come on, friend. I don't know what your faith is. I know what mine is. But I know I don't deserve unconditional love, the unconditional love that the Father, the Creator, gave me 2,000 years ago by sending his Son to die on a cross for my filth, for my shame, for my guilt, for my wicked mouth, my foul mouth. I don't deserve it, and neither do you. But I'm going to choose to walk in that. Am I going to do it 100% of the time? No. I'm human. I'm going to screw it up. So I'm also going to have to choose to love myself and to give grace and kindness to myself when I do screw up, so that I don't allow my mind to go, you stupid idiot. You screwed that up again. You're never going to get that right. You're always going to screw that up. Instead of speaking shame to myself and putting myself down, I'm going to choose love for myself as well. I'm going to choose kindness for myself as well. And I'm going to choose to acknowledge I am a human and this is a hurricane season right now. And myself and everybody else around me is not going to be on our best. We're actually on our worst. So I'm going to choose to extend kindness, mercy, grace, which is all wrapped up in the word love. I'm going to choose love, myself and others. Number 3 is resilience. And this is a really important one. And this is one of our family values that when you look at our family, you see that we have been through hell and back over and over again. We've defied all the odds, and we're going to defy them again. And resilience for us in this season, our personal definition for resilience right now is to know and trust that he has always sustained us, and he never changes, period. He has sustained you too, through thick and thin, through all kinds of crises and traumas, through layoffs, through stock market crashes, through business failures, health failures, marriage failures, kid failures. Hugely regrettable mistakes that you've made and that I've made. But here's the truth. He has sustained us, and he never changes. So this is that third pillar of cling to these truths: honor, love, resilience. They're all wrapped up in his truth. So you got to decide whether or not you're going to stay on the fence with him. Because I'm going to tell you, the thing that has sustained me through all the traumas that I've had in my life and all the crises that we've walked in, whether it's a global crisis or a local crisis or just one crisis in my own heart, is prayer. That has sustained me. Prayer. It's been the place where I release my stress, the place where I take these thoughts that I have and I begin to journal them on paper and write them out as a prayer to my Creator and crying out saying, I'm your kid, I'm your daughter, I need help. And you say that you'll give help. You say that if we cry out to you and if we diligently seek you, that you will grant us the desires of our heart. God, give us wisdom. We need wisdom right now. We need direction, help to protect us. And whatever, however which way that you choose to do that, I'm with you. I'm going to trust you. And so even just reciting this truth, because friends, also in his truth, it says this. It says that we are to hold every thought captive and make it obedient to the truth. So make it obedient to the way, the truth, and the light. And so if there are thoughts that are going through your head are contrary to love and honor and contrary to edification and encouragement, if they're contrary to what's pure and noble and praiseworthy and good, if it's contrary to the resilient truth of being sustained by a sustaining God, one that loves and adores you, then what's going through your head can no longer go through your head. And that's when you hold that thought captive and then you recite the truth and you remind yourself the truth that he has always sustained you, always has sustained you. In lean times and in good times, you have been sustained. You've been well taken care of. Always have been well taken care of. You're like, Dani, how can you say that? Man, you were molested as a kid. You were abused as a kid. You were a homeless woman. I was taken care of. Because all of those situations, hello, I'm still alive and I'm doing far better than I did then. And I use those situations as opportunities to grow and become better and to mature and to learn and to develop myself into being something that is very different than what I could have done with that situation. And that is only by his grace. That's only by his truth of choosing to think on things that were better than those things that hurt me. So we can use every bad circumstance to make us better, or we can use every circumstance to make us a bitter, resentful, hateful, terrible person who has to numb out and drug themselves out every single day because they can't handle the pain. So here's the facts. These 3 pillars, this is what we're going to use. And this is the pillars or the banner, if you will, of truth that will lead us into each and every day. We're going to fall off on it many times. We're going to get back up and say, hold on a second. How did I do on my family values today? How did I do with my commitment of honor, love, and resilience? So the resilience is believing and trusting that we are going to get through this. Believing and trusting something great's going to come out of this. Believing and trusting there's going to be tons of opportunity that's going to come out of this and that we're going to grow as a family, as a people. As a global family, we're going to grow out of this, meaning and be better. So here's the next thing I want to talk about. So I hope that gives you something about priority. You got to prioritize your mind. You got to prioritize your family. You got to prioritize what really is important right now. You got to prioritize your finances right now. Things like junk food, I'm sorry, are not a priority. Things like, numbing out with alcohol is not a priority. In fact, this is the next thing I want to talk to you about, is I want to talk to you about what are your tendencies, your habits during stressful times. If you can be aware of that, then you'll be better off by just simply being aware of it. And what does that mean? I read a book last year that was like super helpful. I went through 3 deaths last year and it was called The Grief Recovery Handbook. Cannot remember the names of the guys that wrote it. It's pretty popular out there, but it's called Grief Recovery Handbook. In that book, they talked about stress relieving activities that people do. And so they listed a few. And then I went through and I kind of thought through and looked at my own life and found some other ones that weren't necessarily listed here. But I want to talk about some of these. If food is your stress reliever, I have a question for you. Okay, so if when you're going, are you an emotional eater? Okay, I was for a lot of years, and every once in a while, I will tend to go back in that direction, and then I'll catch myself going, oh, I'm stressed, and I'm using food as my escape, right? That's my stress reliever is food. Well, let me ask you a question. If you're using food as your stress reliever, can you tell me what more stress that's going to create? Think about it. What more stress and pressure, if food is your stress reliever? What more stress and pressure is going to be created if food is your stress reliever? You know, right? You're going to gain weight. It's probably not good, healthy food in most cases, which means you're going to have an impact on your immune system, which right now we're supposed to be keeping our immune system strong, right? We're actually increasing our expenses because we're buying more food if we're using food as our stress reliever. So now we've increased our expenses. We're spending more money on food, and it's not necessarily good food. And we're actually going out more to buy more of it, which all of that is impacting your immune system. And because you're spending more money on food, hello, now you're stressing about your bills. Now you're stressing about your debt even more. And what does stress do? Reduces your immune system. It massively impacts your immune system, weakens your immune system, which makes you susceptible to getting sick. And if you get sick, now you have what? Medical bills. Now you've lost work, which means now you've lost more money. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So I want you to identify what are the current stress relievers that you're using so that you can be aware of it and go, oh, hold on a second. Is this making it better or worse? You see, in the moment when you grab those Funyuns, and when I grab my Skittles, in the moment, you get that rush, right? But then there is a result of reaching for that stress reliever. So I want to challenge you to identify what your stress relievers are that are positive and working for you, and the ones that are actually hurting you and taking you to a worse place. So for example, alcohol and drugs. Some people, that's what they run to, is alcohol and drugs. So during a really high crisis, high stressful time, they consume more alcohol and or recreational drugs, or not recreational, prescription drugs. And so here's what I want you to look at. What is that doing? Is it really relieving your stress, or is this a temporary fix that's creating a bigger problem? What happens if you start increasing your alcohol intake? The same exact thing when you increase your food intake. Same thing, but even worse. Weakens your immune system. It's much more expensive than some foods. Okay. It actually will make you start sweating at night, which means you're not going to get good sleep. And by the way, eating a bunch of junk food before you go to bed, you're not going to get good sleep, which also has an impact on your immune system. You're like, now my mother's talking to me. You're right. You're right. I'm being your mother right now. Why? Because you need one. Because if you're not making wise choices right now, you need a spanking right now. And if you're not going to take it from my mouth, I promise you, you're going to take it from the marketplace. And I don't want to see that happen to you. I want to see you sustain during this season, not get worse. Don't make things worse in a crisis. Make it better. Try to keep it the same even. Try to just have it be sustained as it is right now, because the crap is flying all around you. You're not in control of the weather, friend. You're not in control of this crisis, and you cannot control this crisis, but you can control you. You can be fully responsible and own you and own your own decisions. So if you're reaching for drugs and alcohol during a stressful time, I just want you to look at what the impact of the alcohol and the drugs is going to make on you. It makes it worse, not better. And you're the only one that can analyze that for yourself. Exercise. Is exercise your stress reliever? Well, I think 3 hours in the gym was stupid right now, or ever, in my personal opinion. I'm sorry if I offended you. This won't be the first or the last time that I offend you. But exercise can be a good, positive stress reliever in moderation. We are all under more stress than normal. Maybe it's a good time to think about going for a walk, getting out of bed, doing some push-ups. If you have some kind of a bar, in your house, climb on it, start doing some pull-ups. It'd be great if I could do one. Whatever. You could do some sit-ups. You could just do some squats. You don't need weights. You don't need to go buy an exercise program. Now is not the time to go buy an exercise program. Now is the time to cancel your fitness regimens, not increasing it, not buying more of them. Okay. But now is the time to go, oh, okay, I could do some push-ups. I could do some sit-ups. I could do some squats. You don't need equipment to do any of these things. You have your body as the gym, but you could literally do this for 15 minutes and it's going to release some stress from you. Sex is another form of a stress reliever. Now, sex addicts is a different story. But just, married people having sex, that's a good stress reliever. And make note of that. That's a good thing. It releases endorphins, and exercising apparently does too. Releasing endorphins helps you feel better, helps you have a different outlook on life. Do the things that are helping you feel better and have a better outlook in life. Okay. Some people use fantasy as a form of relieving stress. And what does that look like? Well, for some, they watch a lot of television, a lot of movies, they binge watch a lot of things, or it could be video games. It could be reading books that don't take you anywhere. And I think it's okay to read books that are just they're stress relieving. They're not how-to books. They're not, a book that has necessarily a purpose. It's just a story that kind of takes you into a place or whatever. But for some people, for me, that's the Bible. The Bible is one of those stress relieving activities for me. I know it sounds like I'm a, whatever, but I'm not. I promise, I'm not this holier than thou person. I'm a total jacked up person like everybody else. Anyway, so fantasy. Right. So kind of look at like, okay, am I playing more video games than I probably should be right now? There's some other things that I probably could be doing that's a little bit more productive to help me move ahead during this crisis season versus numbing myself out. Isolation. Is isolation your form of stress relieving? Isolation. What's the impact of the isolation? If you're going through a hard time and you're not willing to talk to people about it, you are going to dig yourself a mental hole that is going to hurt and harm you and others all the way around you. So isolation can be very, very dangerous, and isolation can also be very, very positive. And again, it's how you're using it and what the impact of it is, right? I'm one of those like to have my earplugs in, and I love to pray and just kind of sit in that silent place with my journal or with nothing and talk to God or just try to hear something. And sometimes I just hear birds chirping or crickets, and that's okay. Sometimes just silence itself is an important thing. During a crazy crisis season like this, some people like to meditate. There's something healthy about those kinds of activities. But if you're isolating and hiding in your room and just trying to avoid people all day, or you're in this routine of isolating yourself, that's not. I want you to look at what the impact that is. How is it helping your mind? How is it helping your heart? When you're alone, what are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with yourself to what? Calm yourself down or help yourself? And is it healthy activity? Is it actually making you feel better, or is it making you feel worse? So that really is kind of thing. Some people shop, and there's people doing that right now, which is just crazy. Shopping like crazy. I'm not talking about these grocery stores. Like, they're shopping. Why? This is part of their stress reliever. It's not a healthy one right now, because shopping for like silly stuff, shoes, clothes, earrings, buying more books when you could literally go to the library and borrow a book, or you could get some used books or trade books with a friend, or there's so much free stuff that you can read online. Like, spending money foolishly on excessive things when you already have everything that you need is really foolish right now. Like, really, really foolish right now. Being a workaholic right now is also very foolish right now, because that has an impact on your family that actually needs you big time. But Dani, I got to pay my bills. I got that. But you see, the workaholic never stops thinking about work. Therefore, they're not engaging with their spouse and their kids when they're at home. Okay. So it's not so much about hours. Hours are what they are, but bringing that home with you and having work in your heart and your mind when you're at the dinner table and when you're trying to put your kids down for bed and when you're trying to be intimate with your spouse, this is destructive. And right now, people need to be intimately connected with each other. That's the one place that we can start building some kind of stability with this world that is crazy all around us. Some people hide behind a lot of social gatherings, which right now is kind of being suspended. And it could be even social media. Is social media your stress reliever? And are you abusing this stress reliever? And look at the impact of what it's creating. Maybe you might want to consider like deleting all social media right now. Might not be a bad idea. Might not be a bad idea at all. Just completely unplugging from all the drama. Unplugging from the YouTube drama. Unplugging from the Twitter drama. Unplugging from the Google drama. Like, right now, you don't need any extra drama. Right now, it's like, wait a second, how can we just kind of simplify our lives right now? How can we simplify our budget right now? How can we, focus on each other and family right now? Like, that is a higher priority than being connected. And again, what I want you to look at is what has been connected to all of this news produced in you. What's the fruit? What's the result? How's the condition of your mind? How's the condition of your heart? How's your physical body? Being tapped into all of this stuff. What's it doing to you? So maybe limit the amount that you are spending in those particular things. How many hours are you spending not only listening to it, but then conversating to yourself about it, right? Having your mind churning about all of this stuff going on politically and with the virus and with the market and the businesses that are closing and the businesses that are being suspended and the schools that are closing. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How much time are you spending churning on that? Here's one that reminds me also. Listen to me. Listen. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of its own. Practice being present right now. And this pillar of resilience, knowing and trusting that no matter what, it's all going to work out. No matter what, it's all going to wash out. No matter what, it's not going to be easy, but we're going to make it. Knowing and trusting that if you trust in him with all of your heart and you lean not on your own understanding, and you lean not on the president's understanding, and you lean not on the CDC's understanding, you lean not on the travel advisory's understanding, you lean not on everybody's understanding and everybody's input and everyone's opinion, and God forbid, the so-called experts that are on television. Whose understanding are you leaning on? Because if you're leaning on man's understanding, I promise you, you're going to drive yourself and everyone else around you crazy. And now you're going to reach for those stress relievers that all cost money. Now you're reaching for the stress relievers that actually take you into isolation and away from the people that need you and the people that love you and that need to know that you love them. Do you understand? So it creates this cycle of crisis that it's actually making the crisis 100 times worse than it needs to be. So, where is your trust? Who are you listening to? Who is directing you? And who is in your head? Because remember, your thoughts create your emotions, and your emotions create your behaviors. You behave out of your emotions. You do not behave out of your mind. You behave out of your emotions. So if your emotions are creating fear and anxiety and worry and stress, you're making the crisis worse. But if instead you're tapping into wisdom, infinite wisdom, then wisdom is going to have a very different voice, and wisdom is going to bring peace. You see, it says that the wise and prudent sees trouble ahead and takes precautions for it. It doesn't say the wise and prudent sees the trouble ahead and gets fearful and afraid and freaks out. It's not what it says. The fool freaks out. But the wise, the prudent is able to look at the full picture and go, okay, I think this is the wise thing to do. No matter what, we have the chance to make a lot of mistakes, but this is what I think is the right thing to do right now. For some of us, some of our stress relievers are hobbies, and I'm going to encourage you to have hobbies, but don't spend money on hobbies. If your hobbies cost you money, you've got the wrong hobby for now. Remember, be aware of the season, a hurricane season. You're not doing things, you're not surfing during a hurricane season. Do you understand that this is not the time for that hobby? So just like right now, there are some hobbies that you might want to take up. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe you want to plant some seeds. Maybe you want to start growing some food, not out of fear, but hey, this is actually connecting with the earth. It's actually getting me outside. It's actually, do you understand? So maybe explore some other things that are, and by the way, you don't need to now go buy some equipment to learn how to build a garden. No, dude, come on. We've been growing gardens for thousands of years. We've been growing, come on, we're humans. We know how to grow food. And you got a spoon in your kitchen, don't you? Like you don't go all weird. And come on, the market has sold us so many tools that are completely unnecessary. Listen, you've bought them, I've bought them. Now's the time not to be buying them. Now's the time to be using what we have, being sensible with what we have, and being wise. Being wise. Okay, let me make sure I've covered everything I want to cover with you. Prayer, I already told you, is a good stress reliever. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll be done on those. Okay. I told you I was going to give you some practical things. I gave you the pillars. We talked about stress relievers. By the way, peace is a choice. Peace is a choice. And I will even just speak it out. Literally, I will literally just speak it out, where I will just say, peace, be still. And I'll even just speak that to my own soul, that when you can start to feel, right, that pit in your stomach, you can start to feel that your heart is starting to race. You can start to feel that you're taking short breaths because you're like, oh no, wait, no. Okay, listen, bringing that to work is only going to get you on the first layoff list. Are you hearing me? It's going to get you on the first layoff list. And here's another thing. You need to realize that people are going to be laid off. And the economy is not going to be very strong, especially in the next few months. And it's going to take a long time for it to correct. And people have been asking my husband and I, like, hey, we see that right now, the market's correcting, what should we be investing in? And our answer is nothing right now. Nothing. Chill out. You shouldn't be buying houses right now because the market hasn't even begun to crash. Okay. And it depends on different parts of the world. There is going, again, Hans and I have been talking about this. There's a financial correction coming. Here's another great passage in this book, my favorite book in the whole wide world. He who loves correction is wise, but he who hates correction is stupid. It literally says that in the Bible. He who loves correction is wise. He who hates correction is stupid. Do you want to be stupid right now? This is a correction time. Okay. It might be a year from now, might be a really good time to buy some things because the market is being corrected. Right now it's doing this, but it is going to be corrected. So don't worry about trying to make purchases on things right now. That's what we're personally doing. You might have some other financial expert that's totally flat broke that might be telling you to do something else, but you want to look at people's track records to make sure they know what they're talking about. It cracks me up when I would go as a financial expert on Fox News and CNN and ABC and NBC and CBS, all of those news networks that I did create, MSNBC, like I did tons of interviews all over, and Forbes magazine and all this stuff. It always amazed me that I was being interviewed by these people and I'm sitting on the set with these financial experts and I would tell my story. On a break, the financial expert turned to me and go, gosh, I was a millionaire. And I just went, this financial expert is not a millionaire? And this financial expert is a trusted advisor on Fox News, on CNN, on all the news networks, MSNBC. And they're saying to me, gosh, I wish I was a millionaire. Wow. And they're maybe writing books and they're writing columns and they're directing the people financially. Be careful who you're listening to, because not everybody with expert at the end of their name is actually have a track record of anything that you want right now. Not at all. So right now it's like, just chill out. Just chill out. Now's not the time also for big giant decisions. And maybe you are forced to have to make one. All the more why these things that I'm talking about, because you might be, maybe you are looking at closing the doors of your business right now. And maybe, come on, restaurants are being suspended all over the world right now. All kinds of public businesses are being suspended right now. And they cannot afford to keep the doors open or pay their leases. And then whoever has the lease, they've got bills to pay too. It's a domino effect of what's taking place, right? So here's what I'm telling you is all the more why you need wisdom and not fear. Do you understand? And you're going to have to weigh your ego with your bank account during this season over and over and over again. You got to weigh your ego with your bank account over and over again. So you might be forced to have to make a big decision. But if you're not forced to make a big decision, don't. Pause. Just pause. The dust will settle many months from now. The dust will begin to settle. And when it does, we're going to find what the new norm is, because there's a new economy that is rising. It is. There's a new economy that is rising. It's not the same economy that we've had. It's going to be a new economy, and we're going to have to adjust, and we will adjust. We're humans. We will adjust. We will adapt. So all the more why you need to make decisions in wisdom, especially if you're facing a big one right now and you're looking at having to close your doors. So hear me. You see, fear would say, what will people think about me? Fear will say, you're going to be hated. You're going to lose it all. You're not going to make it. Don't listen to that voice, friend. Don't listen to that voice. I've been there. That voice is nothing but a liar. But the voice of wisdom will say, trust in him. He will sustain you. Trust in him. He will sustain you. He's got your back. It's all going to work out. Wisdom will say, what will you learn from this? What maybe might you have done in preparation for this? You see, when Hans and I were told by the doctor that I couldn't work and that the side effect of my heart condition was sudden death, that I could drop dead in a moment and no one would be able to save me, I remember the regret of looking back. Gosh, in 10 years, we didn't save $1 million.
In 10 years of making all this money, we didn't save $1 million. All we had saved was 100,000, and we put all of it in the stock market, and we lost it the same day I got diagnosed with that fatal heart condition. So I remember just being riddled with like, gosh, like in 10 years, like, and I sat there and went, in 10 years, we could have saved enough money for all 5 kids to go to college. In 10 years, we could have saved enough money to pay for the 2 weddings that we would have to pay for $2. In 10 years, we could have had money set aside for health issues. In 10 years, like, how could we have not have put money away for these things? But instead, we accumulated almost $1 million worth of debt instead. A $700,000 mortgage, $100,000 in car and credit card debt, and other outstanding things. So look, so rather than being in that fearful place, I came to the place of realizing like, wow, what could have I done better that would have prepared me better for this current crisis that I have no control over? What could I have done different? And that's a question I want you to ask yourself. What are you going to learn from this? Because if you don't learn something from this current global crisis and how it is affecting you and how it will affect you in the days to come, friend, guess what? You get to learn this one all over again. You get to learn this one all over again. That sucks. You don't want to relearn the same mistakes again. You don't want to revisit the same patterns again. You want to grow up in this crisis. You don't want to go backwards. I've often said that when you've had a setback, don't take an additional step back. If you've had a setback, don't take another step back. But it's time to sit there and go, okay, how could I have prepared better for this? What changes will I make in this crisis that will sustain me and prepare me for the next one? Because there will be a next one. There will be a next one. That is not to be negative. That is to say, it's time to strengthen yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. It's time to do that and to get the habits that this crisis is designed to correct us, to cause us to be mature and lacking nothing. So I'm just going through my list. I said I would give you, okay, so I said choose peace and choose wisdom, right? So you have to choose peace right now. That is a choice. Joy is a choice. Peace is a choice. So if you got to remind yourself of that over and over again throughout the day, of peace be still. You can say peace be still to your finances. You can say peace be still to your soul. Peace be still even to your eyes. And look at the things that are robbing you of peace. And I want you to look for things that can make deposits of peace inside of you. I already gave you the idea about wisdom versus fear. I already gave you that. Here's one good thing that I think is coming out of this. Yeah, this is one good thing that I can see clearly. And that is cleanliness. I don't know if you realize, but as a people, we've gotten worse in the form of cleanliness. Have you noticed that? Let me show you. You see, it is believed by many today that whether or not I'm a clean person or I keep things clean or organized has everything to do with my personality. But I'm going to shoot holes in that right now. You see, my mom we teach a personality training and communications training, so it helps you to understand who you're living with so that you can reduce the stress of those that you are living with and working with. And it like massively reduces your stress. It's called GEMS is what it is. And it's an entire beautiful training program that I've been teaching for almost 30 years. And so anyway, so my mom is a personality where it's like she's fun-loving, joker, kind of person. But even my mom, who normally, like in today's world, the people that have that super fun personality that, loves to get distracted, loves to do spontaneous things. In today's world, it's been accepted that person can be like sloppy everywhere. Like their desk can be sloppy, their house can be sloppy. And it's just like, hey, that's just who I am. And that's the way it is. But you see, the generation above me, my uncles who were single, who were construction workers, had clean houses. They were bachelors and they kept a clean house, clean kitchen, clean bathroom. Okay. My aunts that were single mothers who had every excuse in the book, they worked full time, sometimes some of them 2 jobs they worked, and they took care of 3 sons. Their house was spotless. They didn't have a housekeeper. But so even the ones that didn't have the time, they kept their house clean. There was a general sense of cleanliness. There was a general sense of dignity in keeping our personal space clean and organized. It had nothing to do with what one's personality was. It had nothing to do with what one's age was or what gender was. Because even my cousins, who I largely had male cousins, me and my sisters were the only girls in the family. So, meaning of the cousins that I grew up with. So even my male cousins who were my age and up to 5 years older that I grew up with, their rooms were clean. These were teenage boys, and their rooms were clean. Their rooms were spotless. And they were raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs, and she had the house clean. So do you understand what I'm saying? So there's one thing that I can see out of this is like, oh, people are concerned about washing their hands. Yeah, this could be a good thing, because as a society, we have not gotten cleaner or more dignity. We haven't become more responsible. We've actually become more irresponsible. We actually have more stuff than we can actually put, that we have places to keep it. And so this is going to force us to become more financially responsible and more spatially responsible, more responsible with what we have. Why? Because now we're concerned about doorknobs. We're concerned about, keeping our hands clean, that we're not spreading germs to other people, that we're not going to be hurting, especially a certain generation that we need to be protecting as a whole people, that we need to be protecting the generation that is above us right now, because they're the ones that are the most susceptible to this. So that's one, like when I look at this whole mess, I'm like, well, that could be one good thing that comes out of it, is that people are actually aware of things being cleaner and being more organized. And obviously that sings a song to my personality. So anyway, there's many good things that come out. There's going to be a lot of opportunity that comes out of this too. I believe there's going to be several industries. Obviously, the health industry. Anyone that's selling vitamins, they've got a great opportunity right now to just be clean in house. And anyone that is selling natural products of cleanliness, those industries are going to boom like crazy right now. And I've watched that happen over the last 20 years, over and over again. Another industry that I think is going to boom and do very, very well is the network marketing industry. I think that industry is going to do very, very well, especially with schools needing to close down and parents needing to come home and not being able to work. That 2 income households are now going to go down to 1, and maybe one of those parents is going to have to figure out a business from home that they're going to have to start. And that's something that we had for a lot of years. And that's an incredible industry for anyone to learn how to become an entrepreneur, the skills that you have to learn to be successful in that industry. You can become successful in any industry if you learn how to become successful in the network marketing industry, the direct selling industry. It's a powerful industry. That's where I made my first million. And it literally is an industry where you can come from nowhere and be a nobody and create a tremendous amount of revenue for yourself and a great income, as well as somewhat of a residual income. There's no such thing as a residual income, but there is for a season that there can be a residual income that can be built. So I think that industry is going to boom. I think that industry has a ton of potential. It always does. It always rises and does very, very well in recessions. And I believe that that's exactly what we're heading into, is a recession. And so you might want to look into that industry. And that industry requires skill set. It isn't easy, not at all. It requires a professional level of skill set. The hobbyists of that industry, they don't ever really do well. They barely pay for their own vitamins or their own soap or their own lipstick or their own travel services. But the ones that really focus in and become professionals in the industry, those are the guys that make, 100,000, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to millions of dollars a year. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you have the potential to make that in that industry. And so I think that those industries are going to do well. Obviously, most of the service industries are going to be hit. Obviously, doing things online. And again, learning how to do that. And that is an ever-changing game. It's a forever changing game. We've been on the internet for 17 years, meaning DaniJohnson.com has been a website on the internet teaching people how to succeed, coming out of nothing to making themselves a whole lot of something. We've been doing that for 17 years. And we've watched the internet change and go through all kinds of craziness. And it's been a beautiful thing that we've been sustained all these years. And we do teach that. We teach people how to be able to make that happen no matter what's going on in the economy. And we've seen the economy go up and down, and we've been able to be sustained, still changing lives every single day. So anyway, those are a couple of places that I see. I think that manufacturing is going to come back to our country, which I think is going to be awesome. I think that is brilliant and beautiful. I think that many of us are getting the understanding that we've been dependent on international other countries, and it's kind of stupid to be dependent on a country for toilet paper. Like, that is just like complete foolishness. I can't even believe that we ever even got there. And then, of course, most of our medications coming out of another country. And so us seeing our instability and our dependency on another nation It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of manufacturing that's going to be coming back to our country. And I think it's going to be amazing. I think we're going to see another wave of made in America, and it's actually going to be good this time. So there was a time when I was growing up, for example, when I first started in business, that made in America really meant something. Like it was the best came out of our country, and we were proud to purchase our own in our country. And so I think that there's going to be a shift in that direction. And so some of you, that are in manufacturing, anything about that, I think that you have a really great road ahead of you. And those will be some of the places that are going to explode and do very, very well. I know that Amazon just said that they were hiring, I think 100,000 people or something like that. Also, so there's different types of businesses that are going to do very, very well. And there's other kinds of businesses that we're going to go through hell and back again and again and again. And it's okay. Okay. Listen to me. It's okay. You're going to be all right. I'm going to cry as I say that to you. I know you had plans. You had plans. And maybe you had a dream and you had a vision of what you wanted to do. And you just have to understand a giant storm came. And it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It just means that it might take a little longer. It might mean that the timeline needs to adjust. It might mean that the model might have to adjust. It might mean that there's a better way to do it than what you thought. And that's what's going to come out of this. Because when something like this happens, everything gets prioritized exactly where it needs to be. And all the bloated stuff has to go away. All the, what we call in our war on debt training, all the fat in the budget has to go away. And now we got to get down to the baseline. Bare minimums need to survive. And when you can build a business on that, now you can build it on anything. Doesn't matter what happens in the economy. If you've got your bare minimum need to survive, you've got that, and you've got that down even like to a science, then you just, that's what helps to sustain you moving forward. So I know that so many of you have different types of businesses. We've got restaurant owners that are clients of ours, people in sales. There's just so many different industries, the appliance industry, the construction industry, all of that stuff is going to be changing, right? And if you did not make the best choices in this last decade, that's okay. Write down the lessons that you've learned, pick yourself up, and just know, all right, it's all right. The timeline's just going to be adjusted a little bit. We're going to weather this. We're going to be sustained. We are resilient. We're going to make it. We're going to choose love. We're going to choose honor. That's what we're going to choose. In fact, I remember a few years ago, because in fact, starting 4 years ago, how the economy had these, or 3 years ago, the uptick in the economy, the job market got so tight and people were job hopping, salary jumping all over the place. And I said it right on my show, and I said it from the stage at First Step Success, which is our 3-day training seminar. You're not, if you're not loyal, you're like, if you're sowing bad seed in your current place of employment, it's not going to work out well for you when the correction comes. And people made some really bad choices starting 3 years ago. And by the way, and if you're in that place where, you haven't been doing, bringing the excellence and the diligence in the marketplace, and that you have kind of screwed up with not being teachable, when your manager or your boss needed you to be, when you heard messaging on the things that you needed to focus on and you chose not to focus on, and you've been headstrong and you decided to do other things instead of what was asked of you, or you decided to do far more than what needed to be asked, that what needed to be done. Just listen. If you made those mistakes, own it, and just go, okay, I'm not a victim. I did screw up. And if I lose my job out of that, then so be it. I'm going to make sure I do a lot better next time. And so what I want you to do as we close tonight is I want you to write down the things that you're learning, not just from the broadcast, but I'm talking about, look at your last decade of your life. And if this is real, that this is a global crisis, and it is going to create a global recession. And if it is going to take years for it to get back, in fact, it might take a decade for it to return back to the hot economy, or it might take months. I don't know. I doubt that it's going to take months. I mean, we might have an uptick here and there where people are taking a breath and people are spending again. But I think that largely that there's going to be some major challenges. And so if that is the case, I want you to look back and go, wow, what could I have done differently? Same exact thing that I did, right? when I said, man, in 10 years, you think we could have saved all the money for the kids to go to college. We could have saved all the money for the weddings. We could have saved all the money to put away for our future. We could have saved all the money to put away for health problems. And we didn't save any of it. That was a lesson we learned in our first decade, and then dealing with a massive crisis. We had several crises in that decade as well. So I want you to do that. I think it's important. And I want you also to look at yourself and say, okay, what is my knee-jerk reaction in crisis? What's my knee-jerk reaction in transition? Because things are changing and things are going to be different. So find out what your knee-jerk reaction is, and I want you to choose these pillars or come up with your own pillars. Choose honor, choose love, choose resilience. Choose peace. Choose wisdom over fear. And when you go to work tomorrow, bring the best that you got. Don't bring your fear. You're not getting paid for fear. Bring the best that you got. You don't get paid for fear. You get paid for the wisdom you bring. You get paid for the excellence and the diligence that you bring. Bring that. Bring that. It's important to bring that. And I want you to get off the fence. Get off the fence with your debt. Get off the fence if you've heard war on debt, if you have been plugging into our life map for success, if you've been tapping into the Dani Johnson University and you've not been applying it, get off the freaking fence. Get off the fence. It's time to go all in and apply what you have there to the family. Apply your job domination training. Right now, it's more important than ever. Like, you cannot even screw around with that right now. Apply into your business unlimited success. You cannot screw around with this stuff right now. You can't. And by the way, you're going to work hard and you're not going to see quick results. I promise you that. You're not going to see it quick right now. Why? Because this is a stormy season. That's why. The harvest is going to come later. It's not going to come right now. But at the very least, this is what I do know, that if you're listening to the trainings and you're applying it, you are making deposits of confidence and you're making deposits of good seed into the environment that you're working in, and you will eventually reap what you are sowing. You see, everybody else out there is freaking out, man. Either that or they got their heads in the clouds and they don't think anything's going on. Both of those attitudes are absolute 98% attitudes. But that 2% attitude is this, that I'm going to sow with no strings attached. I'm going to give my very best with no strings attached, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to be sustained. I'm going to give into my workplace. I'm going to give encouragement to my spouse and my coworkers. I'm going to give honor, love, and I'm going to trust. Resiliently, I'm going to trust because I have been sustained. Okay? So get off the fence with getting out of debt. Get off the fence with being a financial foolish spender like what we used to be. If you're financially independent, knock yourself out. But if you're not, you shouldn't be spending on stupid stuff right now, especially. Make sure you're tapping into something that's moving you ahead every single day. Make sure, and even if you've got to play it all day and even through the night, make sure you're listening to stuff that is going to help you develop your skill set, that's going to help you develop your mindset, that's going to help you develop your heart set to be in the place to help you win during this war that's against every one of our souls right now. So you have to play to win, you have to fight to win, friend, and you have to listen to win. And if you're doing those things, I promise you, you are going to come out ahead at the end of this season that we all are in. And you're going to determine what your outcome is as long as you do these things that I've been talking about tonight. Okay. So I think, I'm going to close with this. You might be losing your job tomorrow, or you might be closing the doors of your business tomorrow. You might have just gotten a diagnosis on top of everything that's going on that you don't have the virus, but you have cancer instead. It might be that you found out that your spouse has been having an affair for the last 5 years. It might be that you found out that your perfect, sinless child is on drugs. It might be that you found out that your friend did something that was unspeakable. And it might be that you found out that another friend has been falsely accused. It might be that you just suffered a death today. You heard of your grandmother, your grandfather, a close one to you that passed away, whether it was the virus or just the natural course of life. What I speak to you, my friend, is you're going to make it. You're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And we're going to learn from this. And it's going to hurt, but we're going to make it. And we're going to be okay. And if we as a community rally together to do these pillars that I talked about and to make the choices that we're making, we are going to be the people that set the example on planet Earth and in the places in which we live, in the places that we socialize, the places that we work, and that you will be the example that others are looking to. And they're going to come to you and say, man, how come you've had such a great attitude through this? They're going to come to you and say, man, why do you have that kind of peace? Wow, how is it that your family is standing this strong? How is it that you've been able to survive? That even if you did have to close your doors, even if you did get that news about that cancer, I remember watching my friend and their family suffer through 2 deaths during the same exact time. In fact, she lost her mother and her father at the same time that her daughter was fighting cancer and told that she'd never have children. Well, guess what? She's birthed 2 of them out of her body since having cancer. And it's been 8 years this month that she's been cancer-free. Yeah, the death that she was supposed to have didn't happen. She survived. So listen to me. Listen to me, friend. I remember looking at her going, my gosh, what a pillar of inspiration that family is. So guess what? You have the opportunity right now, even though you feel weak, even though everything is uncertain, even though you don't think you can do it, you have the choice based on the things I've shared with you, as well as other resources that you have available at the website, DaniJohnson.com. You have that chance to be that role model for those that are watching, because people are watching you. Your kids are watching, your spouse is watching, your coworkers are watching, your community is watching. This is your chance to rise up in your leadership. This is your chance to be steadfast and faithful to your God. This is your chance. This is your chance. You can do it. You will do it. Your nation needs you to do it. So I'm going to wrap up and close in prayer. Father, I thank you for this opportunity, and I thank you for this chance, this time that we live in. And albeit, God, it is hard, but Father, you are still on the throne. You still are the lover of our soul. You still say that if we seek you first in your kingdom, that all these things will be added to us. You say that if we trust in you, then and not on our own understanding, that you will direct our path. And that our very next step, you are the one leading it. Father, you say if we cry out to you that you hear us. You're not asleep and you're not deaf. You also say that you will rescue your children. You say that you will protect your children. God, we don't understand your ways, but we want to understand your ways. Father, draw all of us in closer to you. Draw us in to trust you more, to walk with you, to practice what it is that you have taught us. You, the Father, teaching your children how to live, act, and walk through this. And Father, I thank you for the pillar of cloud during the day and the pillar of fire by night, leading all of your people to do the thing in which you are leading us to do. Father, I pray that you strengthen all of us to band together in love, in honor, and trust in you. Father, that we would encourage and edify one another at levels that we have never done before. Father, that we'll be forthright and steadfast in our faithfulness to you and to each other. And that, Father, we will care for those who are in radical need right now. And that we will not put ourselves in pitiful places of making bigger problems out of our problems, but instead learning to pray for the nation, learning to pray for the world, and to see, God, that you really are in control of all things. Father, I pray healing upon our nation, healing upon these families, healing upon the businesses, God, and I pray your sustenance to come in a radical and beautiful way. Yeah. And I pray peace be still. Peace be still to every family. Peace be still to every husband. Peace be still to every person who thinks that they cannot survive, that they're not going to make it, and this is the end of the world. I say peace be still to the mind, the body, the soul. Peace be still to the emotions. Peace be still to the finances. And Father, I also pray that you teach us to have fun during this time, that's a great stress reliever. That Father, that you bring us outside, in our own little gardens, and that even in our homes, Father, that we take on maybe different things to kind of change things up, and to bring some laughter. Father, I pray bring laughter into our hearts and into our bodies, into our homes and into the workplace, God, that laughter is good medicine for the soul. Father, I pray that you be the lifter of our face, that you shut the hand of the enemy, and that you shut the mouth of the devourer. Father, I pray and bind wisdom over everybody that can hear my voice right now, that we choose wisdom over fear, and that we recite that on a daily basis. Yes. Father, you're the one that says, fear not, be of good courage. God, you said that so many times when it was a fearful time. You didn't say that when there was no fear. You said that when fear was plaguing a people, that it was clear that we were going to be destroyed by our enemies, by the other camps that we were surrounded by. Father, and you said, fear not, be of good courage. Father, you said that to us when there was just a few of us against many, and yet you gave us the victory anyway. Yeah. Father, I pray that that the winner that is in every single one of us, that winner rises up, and that we play to win. That we play to win with winning strategy, that we play to win, God, with a winning heart. We play to win with a mind that is filled with humility instead of pride and arrogance and criticism and condemnation of whether it's the officials that are leading the country, or our local officials, or our own spouse, or the people that we work with. Father, that we choose to bless with our mouth. We choose to speak life during this time more than ever. Father, and we get to eat the fruit of the life in which that we are speaking. Father, that we choose trust. Yeah. Give us your eyes to see. Give us your heart to feel. Yeah. And fill us with your power of your presence, and your power that brings healing for the sick. Yep. Father, you said that resurrection power dwells in us. God, I pray that we choose to cling to your truth, and that we recite your truth on a daily basis. In the midst of the disasters that are piling up all around us, God, that we choose to speak the truth, that you are a God of love, that you are in control, that all things work together for good for those of us that are in the Messiah. Father, that you hear our cry, that you answer us. Yeah. That you are trustworthy, that you are the creator of the heavens and the earth. That we choose to cling to that truth. We choose to cling to the truth that we love our families. Yeah. And that fear is not going to help any of us, but that we choose love, wisdom, peace, yes, and trust. Thank you, Father. Thank you for this time, God. And I pray that you multiply whatever you want to multiply with this, Father. And if there's anything that I spoke, that I misspoke, that wasn't right, God, I pray that those words die, and that your words are the ones that prevail, and that you move every single one of us to you, that this is the time for us to come to you, Father. I pray that we're not the stupid one that hates correction, but that we are the wise one that loves it, and we choose to learn. That you are a gracious Father, rich in mercy, gracious and compassionate, and slow to anger. Yeah. And that there's nothing that you walk us through that you haven't already prepared us for. I thank you for this time that you've raised us up for, that we have the privilege of even seeing history being made right now. And that what will be written in the books, that we as a people rose up together and did what was good and right and noble and pure? Or is it that we have been overcome and that we've never been able to recover? I refuse to believe that will be the story that is written in history books. But I choose to believe that your people will rise up, step up, and use this time to do something great, to do something valiant, to do something glorious. I pray your might over your people, your counsel over your people, over me, over our clients, over my family, over our friends, the people that we love, the people that we serve. Father, I pray you release your spirit of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, your spirit of might and wise counsel. Father, yes. I pray you release your Holy Spirit over all of us, the nations of the world. That you reveal yourself in this time and in this season in such a profound way that there's just no way anyone can deny that you are real and that you hear. Yes. That that you're here, and that you are one. You are Echad, you are one. And you are faithful and you are good. And you're a good Father who watches out for all of us. Yeah. Thank you. In the name of Yeshua, HaMashiach, that is Jesus the Messiah. Amen. That's it for me. Hope you got something out of this. Hope this has been a blessing. Be connected on the website. More than anything, you can get a hold of our office at 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. You just want to talk to somebody at our office, you need direction. But we are doing what we can to put things together to help you walk through this season. And we want to make it as easy as possible for you to thrive, not just survive this new economy that we're walking into in this new season, in this current correction that our nations of the world are going through right now. It's not just America. There are many nations going through this correction in the new world that we have the chance to build together. That's what we have the chance, a new nation that we get to build together right now because of everything that is happening. Fear not, because something new is going to happen. And I cling to this Isaiah 43:18. Forget the former things for a new thing. I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? He's going to bring springs in wastelands, and he's going to bring waterways in deserts. I know that. He's done that since the beginning of time, and I am clinging to that truth. And so however which way that's going to look, that we get to uncover and discover. We don't get to say what it's going to be. We get to uncover and discover it. And that's the season that we're in right now. So I bless you and your family. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope this was helpful. You can share this with other people. I think we're going to have this up on YouTube. You can share this video on Facebook. And we're going to make it available through email as well. So if you haven't signed up on our email list, I recommend that you do, as we're going to be giving you tips moving forward in the days and the weeks to come to help keep you on track and to keep your mind where it needs to be so that you can prevail during this time. And you will. Why not be the one that becomes a millionaire out of this incredible crisis? Why not? Why not be the one that becomes debt-free during this incredible crisis? Why not you be the one that sets the example? And that's my hope. And I'll do everything I can to be able to guide you as we've guided millions of people throughout the last 31 years that this mouth has been moving and training and developing people. So bless you. Good night.